Hi, this is Dr. Fab Mancini, and I just wanted to introduce you to my dear friend, Dr. James Machino. You know, the reason that James is so important is that he is one of the leading individual chiropractors, nutritionists in the world that has been teaching people how to successfully become a nutritional consultant. I went ahead and did this webinar with him recently that has been watched by thousands of people, and the reviews are amazing. I thought it'd be a good idea for you to actually take a look and learn from somebody that's had over 25 years of successful experience in how to integrate nutrition into your practice, but also more importantly, learn what the latest science is saying so you can be the credible advisor of your community when it comes to nutrition. Remember, deficient in nutrition is one of the biggest causes of chronic illnesses and most illnesses that we have out there. It's time for us to position ourselves as a healthcare provider that is an expert in nutrition. Therefore, we can better serve our patients, but more importantly, we can help so many of those patients out there that are desperately needing someone like you. All right, take a look, and I know you're gonna love it. I'll see you soon. I wanna introduce you, my dear friend, Dr. James Machino. Hi, Jim, how are you?
Hi, Fab. Great to be with you today. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I had to have you on again because of one reason. You know, you did a webinar a couple of weeks ago that has been crazy successful. So many people have texted me, emailed me, messaged me on social media to say, how do I get a hold of that webinar? You cover so many wonderful things in this one webinar, but you know, Jim, I just wanna recap a little bit about what is your passion in teaching us holistic providers, chiropractors, and others. What is your passion in making sure that I understand what you know, and why are you in such a mission to make sure that every provider is properly trained to be able to deal with this type of cases in their communities?
Well, Fab, like you, I went to chiropractic college and fell in love with, chiropractic, the philosophy, and also the science of it, and was able to start helping many people through chiropractic care. And, I went back to school part-time. I felt there was still something missing in my training. The nutrition program wasn't that great. I had a very good background in exercise physiology from the university. But, I started to realize nutrition was an important thing. A lot of chiropractors realize this, and other practitioners do who are not chiropractors. So I went back. I did a master's degree in nutrition many years ago, back in the early 1980s. It was in that course that I started to see the original evidence that really indicated that how people feed themselves and their lifestyle behaviors have the most important impact over the risk of cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis. Are they going to develop Alzheimer's disease? How their immune system is going to work? What level of cholesterol they're likely to have? And other health conditions, many degenerative conditions. And as I followed the research for many years, and I really paid close attention, became an associate professor at the college in Canada where I've taught nutrition since 1984, that this is the missing link that many practitioners need to have. And because in medical school, there's no emphasis on this. So the gatekeepers of health are supposed to be, family doctors and medical doctors, even specialists. And this is part of the patient management that's completely missing. And, really, it's going to be the responsibility of many complementary providers, especially chiropractors, because they're into holistic health and they're into how do I optimize genetic potential for health. Without evidence-based nutritional medicine management in the person's life, you can't attain that. So my passion has been not only to follow the research carefully, evidence-based information, peer-reviewed journals, but to provide that to practitioners who have a true interest in wanting to do this with the highest level of accountability and responsibility to make sure that it's best practices being applied all the time. Not something based on philosophy or something because some nutrition company taught you something. It has to be based on pure generic evidence-based information so you truly can have the expertise that I think practitioners want to have and deserve to have.
Yeah, and I get a lot of feedback from individuals that tell me how they wish they would have more nutrition in their schools. But the reality of it is maybe the schools are not designed that way right now. The important thing is you can always access that information. Now, I've been in this field in chiropractic and holistic health for the last 30 years. And Jim, I got to say, I've never met anybody as good as you. You have such a way of teaching that gives me certainty, but also you back up everything you teach with the right evidence and, more importantly, the right effectiveness, because the success that you're getting with patients where other things are failing are really the things that have made you very well known in the world of nutrition. But let's give a little bit of value, because one of the things that I get a lot of questions is right now we have several conditions that have become very popular. And one of them is concussions. You know, we've seen it not only in professional sports players, but also we've seen it in car accidents, we've seen it in falls. So how does nutrition fit in the treatment of concussion?
Well, Fab, you know, much of the pathophysiology involved in concussion, at the root of it are disturbances within the brain cells and the microglia that only through nutritional medicine can those things be repaired. So, of course, the person has to rest, and you can give them acupuncture. There's all kinds of ways, neurostimulation. But the reality is that to repair the actual nerve damage that occurs, only nutritional medicine can address those things. So what are those things that you have to address? The nerve cell membrane has been damaged, and so you're getting a change in the flux between many of the ions of calcium and magnesium, potassium and sodium. That membrane is damaged. It needs to be repaired, and you have to get the right balance to get the right level of electrical potential back. The next thing is that you're getting mitochondrial damage. It's very severe. You have electrons leaking out of the mitochondrial chain, producing all kinds of reactive oxygen species that do tremendous damage to the nucleus of the cell, to the proteins in the cell, the enzymes in the cell, the cell membrane. That mitochondrial function needs to be restored. You can't do that with drugs. You can't do that with adjustments. You can't do that with acupuncture. You can't do that with sophisticated neurokinesiological training. Only through getting the right nutrients there for repair can you get the mitochondria to reestablish its normal functioning, where the hydrogens move down the cytochromes. You're producing ATP energy more optimally so you can get repair mechanisms in place. And you also have to look at not only oxidative stress, but the inflammatory processes generated from this. And the massive release of glutamate that normally is reabsorbed by the astrocytes to protect the brain from overexcitation from glutamate. All these mechanisms are nutritional medicine based, and it's largely ignored. People guess what to do. They give omega-3 fats, or they give something else. They come up with magnesium supplements. I'm like, this is just a drop in the bucket compared to what you really need to do. And not only that, but to reestablish memory, you need to know how to increase the levels of acetylcholine. That's the memory chemical. There are no drugs that can increase the synthesis of acetylcholine. There's no food that can do it, but there are targeted supplements that can do it. So in the course that I teach, Fab, you learn all the details of this, so you understand the science behind it, so you can apply it in the most clinically effective way on a case-by-case basis.
So what do you think then? You know, these patients, right, these cases end up typically in neurologist offices. They may end up in an orthopedic office. They may end up in a chiropractic office. They may end up in an acupuncture office. Why do you feel that many of these providers are not utilizing nutrition as one of their tools to be able to solve these cases?
Well, you know, it just is right across the board in medical school, and even when specialists go to get their advanced training, whether it's neurology or rheumatology or gastroenterology, pain management. In medical school, I think there is a concerted effort not to teach nutrition and nutritional medicine, because if they teach it, it basically it's an admission that everything they've been saying for years, that supplements don't work. Supplements have never been proven to do anything. The FDA's stand on that is supplements cannot treat or mitigate or prevent or manage a condition. They can only support human health function, but they can't actually manage a disease. The minute they have to admit that these things actually have some therapeutic value, then it changes the landscape, and politically they don't want that to happen, in my view. So medical doctors don't get exposure to this. Now, I worked with a neurologist here for a while who specialized in concussion. So he brought me into his office, and he said, I'm doing some I'm giving people omega-3 fats and some B vitamins. And I said, that's impressive that you would even think to do that. So what doses are you giving them? He says, I don't know what doses to give. I'm just sort of guessing. But at least he knew it had some relevance. So I then showed him all the research on it. I published a couple of papers on it. And he was, not only was he blown away by it, he now has a slide deck that includes all of the PowerPoint slides I gave him when he does presentations to third parties, establishing how important this is in terms of repairing the nerve cell damage. So, at least I was able to penetrate that far. But across the board, you're not going to see the medical profession embracing this, and it's absolutely a huge omission to patient management.
One of the things that I love is that you spend the last 20 years putting together information that makes it very practical for us as providers to implement. And I think that that's really the key. I believe that the key a lot of times is also as chiropractors, we don't feel equipped to properly take care of those cases, right? We know that chiropractic is going to help, but we also know that that's only part of the solution. We know that there's the nutritional solution that many times, one of the things I love about you is that you don't necessarily are putting together information to support a particular product or company, but you're talking about the physiology or biochemistry that happens. And of course, you want to select the best products you can find out there. But what I love about your information, and every time, I'm one of your best students, I love learning the basic information that allows me to make a good decision. And, another condition that I hear a lot about is autoimmune disorders, especially when it comes to the joints. We, as chiropractors, we take care of a lot of joint problems, and we have that inflammatory process that comes from that. I know that recently you were brought in by one of the leading rheumatologist groups to be able to help solve many of the cases that they're really not able to solve. So tell me a little bit about where does nutrition fit when it comes to these autoimmune disorders, especially in the joints, and how do we deal with that? How do we incorporate that? What have you learned over the years?
Well, Fab, it is a very unique situation to be a chiropractor brought into a specialist office to look at the musculoskeletal assessment, but then to also be asked to do the whole nutritional medicine management of the case. So these are doctors who are very progressively minded. The reason that they're looking for this help, by the way, is that in the new mandates in medicine, it says right in their guidelines, for rheumatologists and for other specialists, but it says you must also include, in addition to the standard medical management, you need to be including evidence-based nutritional and lifestyle and exercise management. And so the rheumatologist I'm working with, she said to me, Jim, I have no idea what to do here. I know this is important, but we've never been trained in it. And so I did some research on my own and I found a few things, but I don't really know how to apply any of this. I need somebody with your background to do it. Not only that, I said, well, why wouldn't you talk to a naturopath? He said, well, there's a bit of friction sometimes between naturopaths and medical doctors. Sometimes a naturopath wants to supersede what I'm doing or override my recommendation. I'm looking for someone I can work with who has an appreciation for what I do, who can add the missing element. And that's what chiropractors do so brilliantly, is they're the perfect complementary practitioner. So, once you have specialized training in nutritional medicine, you are in demand. I'm in huge demand right now. So what's happening in rheumatology, what's been identified, of course, they have these new biologic drugs, like Humira and Cimzia and so on, that can block certain pathways that lead to inflammation. But these drugs don't cure the disease. These drugs weaken the immune system, make the person more vulnerable to certain types of lymphomas and tuberculosis and fungal infections. No one wants to be on these drugs if they don't have to. So working in conjunction with that therapy, those infusions and other medications, if you can get the patient's body to decrease the inflammatory state and start decreasing fibrosis, which occurs in some very serious autoimmune diseases like pulmonary fibrosis and sarcoidosis, which is systemic sclerosis, where you have the fibroblasts are secreting all this collagen and laying it down in the lung tissue. So eventually the person suffocates because they can't get oxygen to diffuse into the bloodstream. They're saying we don't really have drugs that can slow this down in any significant way. And I'm saying, have you seen this research that shows that these particular nutrients are able to downregulate the release from the macrophage of transforming growth factor beta, which is stimulating the fibroblasts to secrete all that collagen? They said, no, we've never seen this before. I said, have you seen the research that shows you that the alveolar cells, the epithelial cells in the lungs, are completely depleted of glutathione in all of these conditions, and that replenishing glutathione at the cellular level has been able to contain oxidative stress. It's helping to drive the pathophysiology. They said, well, we haven't really looked at this closely enough. So as I show them the information, they said, Jim, you have the green light to introduce these targeted nutrients, and through the administration you think it's going to be best at the doses and the standardized grades that you have researched. Do it, because these people with, say, pulmonary fibrosis, primary pulmonary fibrosis, you have average 3 years to live unless somebody can slow it down. Medicine doesn't have an answer. So they really are looking for people who have specialized knowledge. And there are very few of us that have it. That's the problem. A lot of people pretend to be nutrition experts, but, you know, Fab, to really have this down at this level requires a little bit of extra training.
And, you know, one of the things that I kept saying to myself while you're speaking, number one, I get excited because I feel like I'm back in school learning, and empowers you because, you know, sometimes I talk to doctors and chiropractors primarily that tell me that they're losing their passion for their practice, primarily because they know the majority of the people out there are not looking for them. So it's a constant effort to try to get patients into your office. But then I sit around and say, well, look, you got this 85% of the public out here that is looking for answers, right? Nutritional answers, but they don't know where to go. And they know that they're frustrated with their medications or traditional medicine protocols because they're not getting the outcomes or the results they're looking for. I want to make sure, and one of the reasons that I told you that I wanted to learn from you and I've been a student of yours is because I want to empower myself. I have to go out there and report on ways for people to stay healthy and be healthy, but I need to have that information if I'm going to be credible in my community. And I don't mean credible just by learning and being certified or being, you know, trained properly, but also by getting results. Because to me, that's the ultimate credibility. If you get results, but you have to have the right protocols, the right combinations in order to be able to solve this. There's another thing, Jim, that I've been hearing, and that is, you know, we have right now a major epidemic of what we call cognitive decline, you know, conditions as Alzheimer's, dementia. And as chiropractors, I think a lot of times we take care of patients for different things, but we notice this symptoms right in front of us, but many of us are not doing anything about it. And it's worse. We notice that in people that are in our families, like we see our parents, grandparents going through and struggling. And now we're seeing that the age is dropping to the point that now people are being diagnosed early on in their 40s and maybe even 50s. So it's not an old disease or an old person's disease. It's actually something that's happening more and more earlier in our lives. But can you explain to me and to all of us that are listening, tell me a little bit about how does somebody even get Alzheimer's? I mean, what is it that you have discovered, and why are you getting results when most of us are not even have any clue on how to deal with this?
Well, you know, it's a big topic, Fab. So, but let me just give you a couple of tidbits that I think are little golden gems that most practitioners were never taught. So in the published research, what you see is that after about age 55, the little transporter mechanism that brings choline from the bloodstream across the blood-brain barrier into the brain becomes much more sluggish. So there's a transport mechanism that takes choline that you get from food and from certain supplements as well. But because choline, the higher your blood level of choline when you're younger, the more easily it gets transported into the brain. Now, choline in the brain first gets incorporated into the brain cell membrane. It's phosphatidylcholine. But then if the brain needs to make the memory chemical acetylcholine, it can pluck off the choline, make the memory chemical acetylcholine, and now you have memory. Well, as you get older, after the age of 55, the ability to transport choline from the bloodstream across the blood-brain barrier becomes sluggish and dysfunctional. So slowly, the brain uses up the choline that it has, and then you start having these seniors moments, and you become a little bit forgetful. That's the first stage of Alzheimer's disease, and it is the major thing in just senile dementia. That's it's called the cholinergic hypothesis, that you decrease choline in the brain. And so no one knew why, but then Wortman were able to show that it's actually due to this faulty mechanism of getting choline across the blood-brain barrier. So dating back to the 1980s, when I was doing my master's degree in nutrition, they were looking for ways to try to get more choline into the brain as people age to help maintain acetylcholine level. And they tried all different forms of choline, and they couldn't really find anything that was effective. But then they did find the actual form of choline that crosses the blood-brain barrier, can re-esterify the phospholipid membrane to make more phosphatidylcholine, and it's that form of choline used even in concussion management successfully to bring memory back and to get cognitive consolidation again. But using that form of choline with other nutrients that can also improve nerve cell electronic or sort of electrical conduction, if you will, and slow down the breakdown of acetylcholine. A nutrient called huperzine A does that. And building a better cell membrane in the first place. Though you can bring people who have early stage dementia, mild cognitive impairment. I have all kinds of patients, but many practitioners who I've taught who have used this method, who have brought patients back from early stage dementia back to normal cognitive function. And I will tell you, Fab, that after the age of 55, every single patient, to prevent memory loss as they age, needs to use this strategy to counter the age-related change that's going to inhibit choline from getting into the brain. So this is where nutritional medicine needs to be targeted to the person's age and gender, family health history, and all of that. But the choline story is a big part of it. It's not the only part, but it's a big part. But just using any old form of choline citrate or bitartrate or lecithin, these things don't work. You have to get targeted types of choline that have been shown to cross the blood-brain barrier, resynthesize that phosphatidylcholine, and can be used to make the memory count. So that's one of the little hidden gems about preserving memories we age.
Well, it's this particular topic is a little bit close to my heart because we lost one of my aunts to Alzheimer's and dementia, and I remember going through that whole process. None of her specialists ever recommended proper nutrition support as she was getting worse and worse. And unfortunately, it got to the point that she passed away. But I want you to know, for all of you that are listening, there's a huge number of people that are struggling with this, and that is just the ones that are getting reported. There are so many cases out there that are not reported that we already know that the signs and symptoms are there. My suggestion is, listen, if you want to improve yourself as a doctor, as a healthcare provider, if you want to learn how to properly be able to deal and access nutrition as one of the best tools that you can possibly have to complement whatever you're doing right now. And if you want to learn it properly, I want you to really listen to Dr. Machino. He has the training, he has the knowledge. He's been doing this for years and trained many, many providers, thousands of us in this process. So I want you to do me a favor. What I did is I want you to listen to this video. I want you to take good notes. And I want you to press on the link right here. Well, you will have access to a webinar, a free webinar, where Dr. Machino is going to actually share with you some of the best information on how you can begin to position yourself properly as the leading nutritional consultant in your community. Yes, you're a healthcare provider. Yes, you're a doctor. But at the same time, remember, many times the public is not looking for what we have to offer. So we have to meet them where they are. All I can tell you right now, nutritional deficiency is one of the leading causes of most illnesses out there. So right now, gaining this information, properly training yourself is going to give you a differentiation among every other provider in your community. More importantly than that, it's going to allow you to have the satisfaction of solving many of these cases through the holistic, natural way that we all promote. This is really what we're here. You know, one of the reasons that I keep telling Jim how much I appreciate the work he does is the fact that we need someone to fill the gap that perhaps we didn't get in our schools, that perhaps we're getting through continuing education, but unfortunately, most of those topics are geared towards companies and products that are very specific. This is where you're going to actually learn what works, and more importantly, you're going to have the science behind it. You know, right now out there, especially that I'm out there in the public, I can tell you that one of the leading reasons why I've been sustainable is because I lead my comments through some kind of evidence. I want you to know there's plenty of evidence supporting why nutrition can help solve many of these cases, or at least reverse them. So I want to make sure that you get trained. Click here on this link. And Jim, you want to say something?
No, I just want to say thank you, Fab, so much for having me on today. I hope people will watch that webinar, because it'll show them really how to get properly credentialed in this area, so that they will be viewed not only just as a chiropractor with nutrition knowledge, but actually with someone that has actually expertise and true credentials in the nutritional medicine field. And that's a nice little stamp. That's really how I've been able to advance my own career as someone who can do nutritional medicine consultations for different practitioners and organizations, because I have a separate designation that allows me to be recognized that way. So that's why I think people should see that webinar, so they can decide for themselves if they want to move in that direction.
What is the one thing that you would say that, I mean, I've gotten so many reviews and so many people bragging about how much knowledge they got out of this one webinar, and I know you're a wealth of information, but what is the one thing that you feel was a great value that you wanted to carry across this webinar for everyone that watched it?
Well, I think that, you know, there's so much confusion in the world of nutrition, nutritional medicine, orthomolecular medicine. And a lot, you know, people sort of get pulled into different little silos because they get influenced by different speakers. Often those speakers are attached to a nutrition company. It's very important to me that a health practitioner gets generic training in nutritional medicine and lifestyle medicine that's not influenced by someone selling them products and shakes and supplements and whatever else. The idea is to be able to have a clear understanding of what the evidence-based science is showing, and know how to apply it clinically, not just having information that's academic, but knowing in any situation, how do I apply it? How do I do this evaluation to give this person what is best suited to their particular situation, factoring the drugs they're taking, their blood tests, their family history, their comorbidity issues. That's how you really apply nutritional medicine, and that's really what I'm able to teach people to do. So that's the message I'm trying to get through to practitioners, so we can be responsible and highly respected in this area. Someone has to step up and do it properly. I'm only one person.
I love it. Well, listen, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. You know, the last time I did a Facebook Live with you, it was a huge success. And that webinar that you created, so many people have thanked me for being able to invite them to watch it. But I also know that everyone that's listening right now can see that you really know what you're talking about. You understand it well. You're a great teacher. But more importantly, you empower me. You empower me to want to think bigger than what I'm thinking, want to serve bigger than what I'm serving, and more importantly, really become that provider that I was destined to become. That's really the key. You know, all of us are playing too small, and then we complain that we're not having the impact that we want to have. This is an opportunity for you to take your practice and your patients to a whole new level. So if you're listening right now, I'm going to put a link right here where we're going to give you access to this free webinar. It's going to be time frame. There's only going to be up for such amount of time. So please take time to look at it, learn, make sure you have a piece of pad and paper like I do always. Take a lot of notes, because you're going to get tremendous value from this time that you're going to spend with Dr. James Machino. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being open-minded, for the information that I bring you, and some of the people that have influenced my life and have allowed me to become a better doctor, a better chiropractor, because I want them to impact your life just as much. So Jim, I hope you have an amazing day. And all of you that are listening, thank you again for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care.